audience that doesn't know much about you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Dr. Jen Welter. So we'll start with that part. I have a PhD in psychology and a master's degree in sports psychology. As I say, it's just the psychology of excellence. Whether it's the game of football or the game of life, there are a lot of points that are in common. And so whether it's on the football field or in the boardroom, my challenge is to help people elevate to greatness and find out what that means to them. And I don't think it's a one size fits all. So sometimes we have to get that. The way that most people know me is that I became the first female to coach in the NFL. And that was, I'd love to say it was a lifelong dream, but it wasn't. To be very honest, as a woman, there was no one I could look to and say, I want to be her when I grow up. So one of the most powerful experiences in my life has been to become that person who gave people permission to dream bigger. Whether it was a female who never saw herself in football or somebody else thought was an unbreakable barrier. I like to think of it as a symbol of hope. I got there from playing women's football for 15 years, essentially. And there was this spirit of playing the game that everybody said we shouldn't play. I used to hear all the time that football was the final frontier for women in sports. And so I just really believe that if we could do this, right, if we could win in this game, if we could do it no matter how hard it was, no matter how tough the choices, if we could win there, then truly couldn't we do anything? And that spirit kept me playing for times when, we were pulling our cars up to the side of the field to put our lights on it so we could go a little bit longer. We were shoveling snow. We were walking fields for big rocks or needles or all of the other fun things that you find at fields that aren't really fields, but you're going to make them that way. And we just love the game. And I think that that's a lesson of what success looks like in this world. At least it has been to me. Like, if you follow your passion and not a paycheck, if you define yourself by not what you have, but who you are, then that's where success truly comes from. I still remember the first check that I got from playing women's football. It was in 2004. We won our first Super Bowl. We went undefeated 12-0, and we got a check for $12. And that $12 is still the most important money I've ever made in my life. Though I never cashed it, it was the first time that we could truly consider ourselves pros, because now we were getting paid to play. And so to me, that's been a lot of defining who I am, is that your professionalism and your worth isn't defined by what you're paid, but how you carry yourself and how you play the game. And so I followed women's football as far as it would take me. When I started playing, the original goal was to win a Super Bowl. Won 4 of those. Then I had the opportunity to play on the first and second ever U.S. national team in 2010 and 13. Then I stepped up into the challenge of playing men's football in 2014. I was with the Texas Revolution for an entire season. It was painful. I survived, and it changed my life. From that experience, I then went on to coach the team the following season, and then went from the Texas Revolution to the Arizona Cardinals. And, it's just been a crazy journey all along the way.
Thank you. I think it's incredible the fact that so much of you have become a leader in this movement of women, breaking barriers everywhere. But it started with exactly what you love, which was football, right? You had a passion for something. And so I think that speaks volumes to those of us who work in the people field and the recruiting field. And what we're doing is we get such a passion about helping people find what they want to do with their lives and their careers and stuff. So there definitely are some correlations and things that come together for us. For Recruiter Relation Live that you're going to be speaking with us and not sharing too much about all your content, we want them to come and see the whole thing. Tell us a little bit what you might be talking about.
I lovingly say that when you're doing something that hasn't been done, there's no roadmap in how to do it, right? I couldn't look at someone else and say, I want to be her in my coaching style or in my behavior. So how do you define who you're going to be as a leader? how do you find what it means to be authentic? And every decision I ever made in uncertain territory went back to the best advice I ever got from Terry Glenn, former receiver, who I'm sure you've heard of, played in the NFL. And he said, the best advice I can give you is to be 100% authentic. Said, if you are exactly the same person that you were here with us every day with the Revolution in the NFL, those guys will absolutely love you. But if you're fake in any way, they will sense it and they will eat you alive. And so a lot of what I'm going to share is just those situations that you couldn't predict, and you couldn't be anybody but yourself, and how that really gives you the strength to become somebody that other people follow, even in situations when they thought it may not work.
Right. No, that's fantastic. It's got me excited already, kind of goosebumps, and getting ready for you. As you know, so much of what you've done in your coaching career, and even as an athlete, is about recruiting folks to your team, right? Whether it's to play with you or to play for you, or to kind of do that. And so there's a recruiting part of the arena that you work in. And because so much of our audience are going to be recruiters, you know, many of them for all different industries around the country. What's one piece of advice you would give to recruiters?
Well, first of all, funny enough, my first job out of college was a headhunter. Went on to be a linebacker, not that different, right? But the piece of advice that I would give, and it's something that I think is important from Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians always wanted somebody who could read somebody's eyes. And what reading somebody's eyes means is seeing one person and reaching to the core of who they are and saying what this person might need that's different from what somebody else might need, and tapping into them as an individual. Because if you capture their heart and spirit, they'll always follow you. But if you miss those things, right, then you're always going to have a miss, whether it's in the initial interview when you sold a job that wasn't really there, or a candidate who sold themselves as something that they weren't. Well, you're never going to be comfortable because you're still going to be going to that ideal. So how do you get to what's real, to the core of what that company is, what that person is, and really realize that you're working on developing a relationship between the two. It's like this funny saying is like, if you convince somebody that you wear a different shoe size, don't try and walk in those shoes every day, because you're always not going to be comfortable. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I would say, is really getting to the core of what somebody is, what the company is, whether it's a person or a company, and really working on matching those up, because then you'll have something that has real longevity and real meaning.
Yeah, no, that's great. We talk about being matchmakers and everybody's a fit somewhere, right? Within a company or within a team, right? To some degree. What's the one thing you would tell recruiters, like, quit doing this? It's awful. It drives everybody nuts. Like,
first of all, nothing is perfect, right? Don't tell me that some place or some job or some company is perfect. Because if you tell me, it's like saying that you know everything. I already know you're lying about something, right? Whether you're dating a person or dating a company, like, listen, there are things that are great, and there are other things that take getting used to. Now, some of those things that take getting used to might actually be the best thing for that person. Right? Like if I say, no, everything's perfect with this company. Now I'm somebody who's very free-spirited. I like great conversation, great color. And if the company is very like this, I'm not going to fit, right? If they want people who are very cookie cutter, I'm not going to fit. Now there are some people who really like that structure and they want everything spelled out. They don't want creative thinkers. They want somebody who fits in there. Neither is right or wrong, but it's about finding those things that are highs and lows, or where you're going to find that match. So don't try and make it look like it's pretty polished and perfect in everything. You cannot win anybody over through perfection. Sometimes the imperfections or those little quirks or those little benefits that you may not think matter are the things that actually matter the most.
Yeah, that goes back to your 100% authentic comment, right? Just having that be a component there too. So as you know, it's hard for folks to step away from their day-to-day jobs and their day-to-day lives to come attend an event like this for multiple days. But our intention is that hopefully they'll come and they'll learn something and contribute and connect with people that they, kind of invest in themselves. But what message would you say to those that are thinking about maybe coming to Recruiter Nation Live and be like, here's why it's important to stop doing the day-to-day and come to San Francisco, come be part of this, come listen to me speak.
It's easy to put your head down and do work, right? It's easy to put your head down and just grind and feel like the grind is what will make you successful. But sometimes the best moments come from the unexpected or come from pulling from an outside thing and getting you to challenge something in what you've been doing. It may not be through just grinding out. Do you know that expertise is actually oftentimes the killer of innovation? Because we start thinking so much in one way, we become so streamlined and so proficient that we miss the true magic. We miss those moments that we had when we were first learning things and tying things together. And if you're gonna learn in a people-based business, you have to actually learn and connect with people. That doesn't happen by one more resume. That happens from conversation, communication, and actually intervention of thought. So challenge yourself to get out of your box and push yourself to the next level, because the greatest moments in your life may come from something that you never expected, and you cannot put a dollar value on that.
No, not in those moments in your life too, and you're like, that was pivotal. That was a great chance to do there. I'm sure you've had many of those in your career and in your life that you're going to get to share with us too, which I think will be fantastic. On a little more personal note, welcome to coming to San Francisco. Anything you really love about the city that you're like, come on, I want to make sure I get to do that, or something that's your favorite thing?
Oh my gosh. So I love San Francisco, and I have not gotten to spend nearly enough time there. But probably my favorite thing about it is just the minds that are there. Every time I've come to San Francisco, I've met some of the most innovative thinking people who are looking for the intersections between technology, humanity, and quality of life, right? Like that's what fascinates me so much about it, is that it's become a hub for innovation in which you just never even know. You think you know something until somebody says, hey, did you realize that you could automate that? And I'm like, no, but that's really cool. And so I hope I'll have the opportunity in San Francisco to have those conversations. It's also one of the most picturesque cities on the planet. If you haven't been there, you have to go. And you also might want to try and just rent a stick shift and see if you can navigate the streets. Because if you've never seen them, they literally are like this. I mean, I'm telling you, like walking up the streets is like the ultimate workout. But there's probably too much to count. And I mean, the Golden Gate Bridge, all of those things are great, but
we always encourage people like, come to the conference, come learn something, come participate, come connect with people, but go see the city and the culture and the people too.
Yeah, don't miss that, right? And I think that that's one of the things that we do, especially when we get so focused in our career, and I've been guilty of this as well, is that we miss the beauty that's around us. And it's actually the beauty that will motivate us, reinvigorate us, and give us the energy to be who we want to be in our work lives. Like a great example of that, I was the head coach of the first Australian women's national team. So here I am, I get to go over to Australia, over on the Gold Coast, and coach football, my passion, right? And I'm there and I'm grinding, and it's really long days because they really loved football, but hadn't been exposed to the level knowledge that we were giving them. And so here we are, and we're there, and we get to the end of our first camp, and I realized that I was 5 minutes away from the beach and one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I had never taken the time to walk over there. So I was exhausted, and I was just at the end of my lack of sleep and all of these things. And I went over there, and it was sunset. And I just sat down on the beach, and I couldn't help but cry, because I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing that I had all of this just steps away, and I missed it? And the promise I made myself was that next year, when I came back, I would start each morning on that beach. And so while everybody else was still getting up, before anybody had demands on my time, I would walk over to the beach, and I would just walk at sunrise. and nobody knew where I was. But by the time I got back to my team and my coaching staff and everyone there, I had already taken enough time to center myself, to make sure that I was going to be the person for them that I needed to be. And I'll tell you what, it might have been a little less sleep, but the impact that it had on me as a human and as a leader and as being grounded and insightful was priceless. So, don't miss that. Don't let the work keep you from the life that you're trying to live, because ultimately we don't live to work, we work to live. And if we're not living a great life, we're not going to be that great person within work either.